Hi, my name is Liza Flum, and I'm very excited to be reading with literary partners and writers and books. I'm going to read a selection of poems from the manuscript I'm working on now, and the manuscript is called Hover. So this is the first poem. Memorial to a Marriage, after Patricia Cronin. It must be their feet tangled past the hem of the blanket, a big toe pressed to the top of a pale carved foot, that make me pause, scroll back to this image. Two women embracing in marble, hair loose, eyes closed, their polished mouths smiling. I touch the picture and their bed fills the screen. Life scampers across their likeness in this public cemetery. Grass brushes their palate, a tree casts leaf dapple across their shoulders, and a little pool of rainwater gathers in the furrow between their bellies. I want to call you from the other side of the house. Look at this. Their bed is our threadbare bedspread with blue flowers and flattened pillows. I can find us all over their particulars. One's chin and another's chest. My stomach, your hip, my shin pressed against your shin. But you are reading, alone in your bath, in a cloud of your own breath, in a nakedness that doesn't include me. They exist. This marriage exists. What does it mean to carve a living thing in stone? 2002 to eternity. I have lived things that felt eternal, sure. My own dazzling afternoons on ferries crossing cold waters at an iron railing, watching pine trees pass. Just as you feel when you look on the river and sky, so I felt. I learned to fling myself across distance. I wished, I said, from your mouth to God's ear. And I have wanted to live behind that ear, too, tucked like a flower in a fold of eternity. On my screen, a small leaf set sail across the water between their two bellies, sallying along the shores of these sleeping lovers. Didn't Whitman say queers should stand on the shoreline calling out, I was, I am, to journeyers from the future as they sail past us in paper boats? I will, I do. What I can't have in life, I will have in death, the artist says. A marriage, scene. Is this what living in public means? And what do we know about life in public? We drop hands. You and I and your husband have no papers, portrait, or family name. In a million iterations of lords and ladies holding hands on their marble caskets, what will survive of us is almost nothing. Still, maybe a glimpse. These brides' bodies are bright, glittering, offset against dark grass. They establish themselves as the land. Oak leaves nestle in the hollow between one's chin and another's chest. Their marble shoulders are freckled with acid rain. I want to shelter here in their beds, shining visibility. They let us be seen while keeping our privacy. We leapfrog from now to someday to escape while we are still here. I go upstairs and find you in the water. I take my clothes off and climb in. We barely fit in this casket together, thigh to shin, knee to knee. Around us, ripples in concentric circles spread to the basin's edge and then return to our shimmering bullseye. We are what we were setting out to see. So that poem, as I said, is a response to Patricia Cronin's sculpture called Memorial to a Marriage, which is this beautiful piece of public mortuary art. The sculptor has created basically an image of herself and her wife embracing and placed it on their gravesite. And you can Google it, Patricia Cronin. It's very beautiful. I wish I could hold up a picture and show it to you right now. So there's a long section in this book manuscript, which is sonnets about family and love, using the image of hummingbirds as a way to talk about, what it's like to live in a family that is not very visible. And hummingbirds are so amazing because part of the way they survive is to move so quickly that we can't see them. So I like to think about, what are the different things that invisibility offers, and one of those things is actually survival. So here are a few poems about hummingbirds. Chimera. A dress of plumes, whatever it takes to own a shining thing, to wrap yourself in its skin, half ruby throat, half human. The famous gown sewn from 3,000 skins of Brazilian hummingbirds must have shimmered in light. It must have draped heavily over the body it hid, till the woman was Iris. About to take flight off the earth, she washed in color. A rainbow slid on the marble floor as she waltzed. Now, a stolen feather, we whisper, costs years of your life. Forgive this wanting. I'm watching a hummingbird hover by a feeder in a tangle of flowers, inquisitive, alive. I'd give how much? To own its small brilliance, gorget in the head, scattering iridescence, or to let it pass. Model home. Hummingbirds make nests of spider silk and lichen, which are tight-knit and tough, but can stretch open around bone and fluff to enclose growing hatchlings. If I had milk, if I had money, or could pluck the world of stretchable stuff, I would love giving some small bodies shelter. I've seen enough hummingbird nests to guess what it takes. From a distance, the nests seem made of flowers, but the lichens have no petals or pollen. They are rough as scales or dried skin, and when the birds grow bigger, the spider silk tangles them in its net, suspended and falling. Hanging on by a silken thread is almost flying. Nature photographer. I can't seem to crop my own shadow out of the frame. A hummingbird nest can fit atop a single clothespin. I position it beside teacups, house keys, a wedding ring, a finger outstretched. The nest splays open. No one's home. And I push my heavy lens inside its crushed dome of cobweb and leaf. A shock of violet petal is woven into the nest's soft walls, as if the bird imagined lichen becoming a shining thing, like this playing card, paper clip, or dime. This toothpick is twice as long as a hummingbird nest. I imagine toothpicks are designed with particular dimensions, considering the grip of a human hand and the depth of a human mouth. Such a simple thing is never left to chance. The length of the nest is half the distance from my lips to back teeth, the space of a small, sharp breath. Keeping it. The hummingbird thinks, blossom, blossom, I think, until blossoms surround her. She hovers, then sips blossom nectar. She knows how to become the thing she most desires. I know that whatever I want skips, ripples, drops in me like a thin stone, or I am a nest with a hole in the bottom. And I know hummingbirds disappear. It's autumn, sunset glosses our windows, orchards are half rotten. We're lying forehead to forehead. I'm touching, then grasping your clothes, then I'm touching your hair. Our wooden house shakes in high wind. There's nothing holding us but the shell of sky and its nest of atmosphere, then stars. Wind passes through the cornfields like a wave, as if the whole world were water, as if it were a sieve. Inner life. The meditation app on my phone tells me to live in the scope of my own skin. So I float on a tide of my breath on this bus. At night, hummingbirds save nectar stores in their throats so they can feed all night from the inside. What I have is my lungs' constant appetite for the world. The hummingbird, I know, pollinates a system built to starve her. At each flower, her tongue looks for life, more life. As stops lurch by, I'm trying to write. I thought once I would die early. On my desk, I kept a picture of a poet who died and another poet who died. In the dead hummingbird's stomach, researchers found only spiders. What she could not digest, hard, stripped down, nectar vanished in her throat, an empty pouch. The bus doors wing open to the world. I still want so much. Pathetic fallacy. I hate hummingbirds, they're such assholes, I say to my friend, and she says male sea otters mate while pushing females underwater till they can't breathe. Deaths are incidental but common. And I tell her the male hummingbird won't let the female drink nectar until he fucks her. I've watched at the feeder as they dive bomb each other. It's incredible how much I still manage to admire them. Hunger is their single path through the world, a plunder of bodies and blossoms. I want to live differently. But my eyes keep seizing now on this beautiful tree with its leaves that seem not to eclipse other leaves, that share shadows, that whisper together in the grove. Fable. Settlers of small places, dust, tile grout, mold, and just passing through insects, mite, gnat, mosquito wriggling out a torn net, all understand the double bind of a tiny thing, to be extraordinary, to be incognito. Where the bee hummingbird fails terribly, he's smooth and glittery as an unset gem. He zips through miles of fronds to lick up gold dust. He lives on the Isle of Youth, where he builds thimble nests for eggs the size of coffee beans. His world is rustling small. One island, 10 possible flowers he can drink from. He weighs as much as a pinch of salt, and he hunts on roots known to insects and spiders, eating them as he goes, until the gold helmet on his face becomes a red veil. Then he sips from a blossom, a world just his size, to cloak and enclose him. And this is the final poem I'll read. It's the last sonnet in the sequence. It's called Still Life. Stunned in a man's palm, a hummingbird opens its wings, and they look unremarkable, pigeon gray. They once were too fast to look at, dragonfly gossamer. Now this bright body is a specimen. I thought I wanted to see a hummingbird frozen and splayed. My whole life I've had a bad memory for moving things, like faces. As a child, I'd try to picture my parents with my eyes closed and summon an eyebrow, a chin. But does loving mean looking well or trying? Sometimes I make my hands a picture frame to stay your moving image, your fast, overflowing my hands' aperture. I squint to keep you still. You can't have someone. You just go with them, you said, as you packed our bags, already going. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Writers and Books.